Go.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Puzzle, wherein Isaac and I discuss difficult business questions for 10 minutes, and sometimes a little bit longer. Today, we are going to tackle a beautiful question. I mean, previous questions were beautiful as well, but today is especially beautiful, and that is, how do you turn a stagnating project around? I think that's a very good question, maybe difficult to tackle in 10 minutes, but so far all of them were. So Isaac, open.
Yeah, for better or for worse, I do have some experience in turning around stagnant projects. And I would even say that I actually do enjoy it. It's because maybe it's part of the personality, or because I'm an engineer as you are, and we like to fix things. Of course, a project has people, has fine lines you maybe should not tread, has a history that you might not be aware of. One thing that I found is super important to turn it around is to make sure that you understand why it is at the state it is by doing your research with people who have seen it across all of its development. So it's very easy and very bad too to come into a project that is floundering and say, I'm going to fix it. You have all done stupid things and bad decisions, and I'm here, don't worry. I'm from the government, I'm here to help, as people joke in the US. And that is a guaranteed way to mess it up even more. Instead, what I find works well is to take an inventory of where the project is, reevaluate whether it is stagnant based on actual reasons, or whether it is assumed to be stagnant because of mismanaged expectations between what was supposed to be achieved and what is actually achievable. So do not take the expression that a project is stagnant at face value. You might be surprised that when you dig deeper, you find out that it's not stagnant at all. It only appears like this because the expectations of where it should be versus where it actually is are totally off base. And to do this, you need to manage to talk to everyone and understand their points of view, and to get everyone to surface their opinions without creating interpersonal conflict, because there inevitably you will have people blaming, oh, it's this guy, it's that lady, it's because you didn't do, because I did, and you should have done. And so you need to earth this, ground this, and get to what we discussed in another episode, get to productive conflict, where you put things on the table and say, what do we want to achieve? Where are we now? And why do we think we're stuck? What is really the problem here? What are the issues that we need to address? So I think start with clarity first, and then everything else comes after that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with clarity is always helpful. So like you said, same here, for better or worse, have experience with coming into stagnating projects and helping them out. And in my experience, you did mention it, but I also want to repeat because I think it's important. Stagnating project means that there's a stagnating team. So like you need to boil down to what is happening. You cannot ignore the people. You cannot be I mean, you can be, but it's a shitty way to do it, like a technical autocrat that just does everything. In my experience, and this might sound harsh, when we're talking about stagnating teams, they will either be demoralized or delusional. It will be one of these two. So what I mean by that, a demoralized team usually knows that something went very wrong for whatever number of reasons, while delusional team does not think so, and they think somebody in the organization is out there to get them, sabotaging them, whatever. And getting those two teams unstuck require very different tactics and strategies. Although you could say that for both of them, it is clarity, it is sometimes discipline, restructuring, whatever. It can be different. I had varying experiences in terms of digging too deep, what led to the gridlock. In some cases, you could almost say that it's not relevant. It's like, okay, it's been gridlocked, it has been broken through, or, it spent too much money, it went for too long, etc. But what I did found very, very important is if the leadership has identified that this is a stagnating project, and they decided to invest in getting it back on track. Why? And what are the expectations from the leadership, top manager, whatever? It's again very different if the management said, okay, give it one more chance and then we are terminating it, versus this must succeed because X, Y, Z. Again, like turning around these two projects is very, very different. And that should be communicated to the teams in those projects as well, but it has to be done with care and empathy, if you want, because again, it can be very, very different. And I don't have a lot of cookie cutter answers here or experiences, because I found every stagnant project requiring different approach. It's you know, it's people based. People are different. We like to stereotype people, etc. And yes, there are some characteristics, but it's never the same. Like no two teams are the same.
It's I like the typology, delusional or demotivated. I never thought of it, but it matches my impression, my experience actually. And I don't know which one is worse. As you said, it's every time is different. So you cannot say this is a 2 out of 10 and this is 4 out of 10. But it does take a very light touch, especially when things can be attributed to people, regardless of the hierarchy of the organization. You need to tone it down. To clarify, when I was saying that you look into what led to this, it's not who did what and why and so on. It's my experience that the system under which a project operates or endeavor operates is usually to blame. If you're going to blame something, it's not the people inside it. It's the system that has been built around it, the context in which it operates. And I'm not blaming management here. I'm saying maybe everyone was deluded about what the project could succeed at. Maybe the market is deluded about this, and then there's absolutely nowhere to run, because okay, yeah, it was supposed to be an amazing flourishing market, then it wasn't. So what do you do now? Do you blame everyone for not knowing how to forecast the future? If they knew, they would just bet on the stock market and be rich instead of working as an employee. So it's rather understanding the systemic issues in the project that might cause repeated failure points. Maybe, as you said, it's because about people. Maybe it's the way that people are used to working together. Maybe the process they follow. And I'm not talking Agile, Scrum, whatever the process is, something that they do that they might not even be aware of. The way they communicate about things, the expectations that they pose towards each other. For example, clear case in a project. I remember there was a mindset that the hardware guy, so the electronics guy, will only start implementing when the product manager delivers the specifications. So then there was a conflict saying, why is this project not moving at the pace we would like it to? Oh, because we cannot start developing yet. Why? Because the product manager hasn't given us the specs. And the product manager would say, oh, I cannot define the specs because these might change because a competitor comes in. So always finding some way to kick the ball to the bleachers, as we say. And that transactional expectation there, that somebody needs to give me something so that I process it, and then I give this to you so that then you process it. Then while you don't have the data, you're just waiting there, twiddling your thumbs. That by itself is part of the process. It might not be written down in a process landscape. It might not be part of a waterfall of Scrum or Kanban, whatever. But the mental model that people had in this team was that everyone is responsible for a little piece of the puzzle. The puzzle, right? That's why it's a puzzle. That's what we call the puzzle. And yet they don't start doing unless everything has been decided, so that whatever this person does, we don't have to change. And by definition, when you do that, you bottleneck the entire process. So this is one example. It can be intercultural, might have to do with mismanaged expectations from anywhere. So you need to be careful not to assign blame, but figure out whether the team is operating under assumptions that are fundamentally causing issues. So you might even bring them the perfect decisions, right? So magically, they will. So the product manager will bring the perfect specification, but then the electronics guy doesn't start implementing until he has the perfect one. So, well, you just introduced just a bottleneck in the process. The other guy could have already started developing conceptual things, variants, and so on. So every time you impose a barrier interface, for example, and whether this is cultural, this is interpersonal, this is knowledge or domain interface, you need to be very careful to not create a stagnation in the project. So I think that's also one of the few universal things that I could say about the situation. Beware of interfaces, no matter where they are. They cause stagnation in projects.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I'm just checking perfectly out of time. But yeah, it's like handovers, introducing such decision points,
Yes.
micro decision points, etc. All of those can slow down the project, and sometimes it's good to move slow, to do fast, etc. But that again doesn't absolve us of kind of always being critical, almost doing like root cause analysis to figure out what did we stumble over. Let's remove that and let's keep moving. To you listeners, as we always say, if there was any specific thing that sounds interesting, just send an email, write to us. We're happy to do a 10-minute segment just on that specific thing that piqued your interest. We already did some episodes like that, so we're happy to do more. Isaac, this is it. We're out of time. We will deliver on our promise. So thank you for listening, and see you again next time.
See you in the next one. Bye-bye.